Welcome. Today I'll show you how to use subnetting. So let's load PowerPoint, make the screen bigger. So what we've got here, we've got our IP address 192.168.2.0, whereas subnet mask, which indicates the network portion, and that tells us the first three optics are our network, and the last optic is our host portion. I've also got a little table down here which indicates 2 to the power of, so you can just look at that to work out the math side of things. So we can only play with the host portion when it comes to subnetting, and we need 3 subnets: an admin subnet, an account subnet, and a sales subnet, all from this one IP address. So the first thing we do, we draw an imaginary line. So if you move one space to the right at the beginning of our host address, we effectively got 2 to the power of 1, because binary, you only have 2 numbers, 0 and 1. So if we look down here, that gives us 2 networks. We need 3, so that's not good. So let's move the line another space to the right. So just bear with me while I do that. So I'll move it one more space to the right. Now we've got 2 to the power of 2. And if we look down here, it gives us 4 subnets. We only need 3, so we reached our magic number. Now, how many hosts are on each subnet? So we count the remaining zeros, which is 6. So that's 2 to the power of 6, which equals 64. That 64 is known as the block size. Now, to get the usable IP addresses from that, we've got to take away 2. Remember, you can't use the first address and you can't use the last. So that actually gives us 62 usable IP addresses. So now we need to fill in this table with all the details. So we always start from 0 in regards to our network. So the first network will be 192.168.2.0. The next network, which goes up in block sizes of 64, that's where we got the 64 from, will be 192.168.2.64. And then a block size of 64 again, 192.168.2.128. And again, if we want to know the next subnet, it will be .192, which is 128 plus 64. So we got our network IDs. So we need to know the first usable address we can have on each network. So that will be 192.168.2.1. On this network will be 192.168.2.65. And on this network will be 192.168.2.129. So those are our first usable addresses on each network. Now, let's work out the broadcast address, which is the last address and cannot be used as an IP address on a host. So if you go to the accounts, which is 64, which indicates our next network ID, if we take 1 off that, that will give us the broadcast address. So we 192.168.2.63. And this will be 192.168.2.127, which is 128 minus 1. And this one will be 192.168.2.191, which is the next subnet minus 1. The last address, again, you just take 1 away from the broadcast address. 192.168.2.62, 192.168.2.126, and 192.168.2.190. So there we have our table completed. We got the first IP address of each subnet, and we got the last usable IP address of each subnet. Yeah. So you can see the last usable IP address of admin is .62, because .63 is a broadcast, and then .64 is the accounts ID network. And then it goes 65, 126 the last address, 127 the broadcast address, and then we move to the next network, 128, and so on. So that is our table completed, so we can now assign IP addresses to each subnet. Now the other thing we need is the subnet mask for this entire network. So if we look at the network portion, remember that's 255, 255, 255. I got that from here. Now we've used 2 bits from the host, and if you remember the old 128, that's 64. Add them both together, you get 192. So that is our subnet mask for our entire network, 255.255.255.192. Now if you want the slash notation, 255 is 8 ones, that's 8 ones, that's 8 ones, and this is 2 ones. Ones indicate the network portion of the subnet mask. You add those all together and it equals 26. So if we pick a typical IP address down here, it'd be 192.168.2.1/26. So remember, the /26 is the slash notation indicating how many bits are used to identify the network portion. And then if you convert that back into decimal, that is where we get our 255.255.255.192. And there we go. That is subnetting. The rules to remember: you can only play with the host. By moving that imaginary line to the right, you create more subnets, but less number of hosts per subnet. Once you've got that information, you can use the host number to indicate the block size, and that is the steps in which each subnet goes up in. In this case, it was 64. So we have network.0, network.64, network 128. Remember, you can't use the last number and you can't use the first number. First number indicates the network ID, and last number indicates the broadcast ID. And that concludes the tutorial. Thanks for your time.